So first thing, the AC does need to be evacuated. If you do not have the equipment to evacuate the AC, I recommend taking it down to a local shop, have them evacuate it out. Then when you're done with the repairs, go back to them and they will give you your refrigerant back. The other things we want to do is drain the coolant. The coolant drain is right there on the passenger side, 19 millimeter. So there's only two real tricks I know to make the job go smoother. First, take the tires off, lower the vehicle as low as it'll go, have it on jack stands, and this will make having to climb up on the engine and all that stuff just a little less. And then we're gonna take this fender well out. This is just the passenger side. Driver's side is not a big deal. Passenger side, if you look, let me turn the light on. Right there, you can see the valve cover bolts are easier to get to from the wheel well than they are from the top. To get the fender off, there's just a couple of bolts here, some clips, some more bolts around here, but it's not too bad pulling this off. So now that we have our preliminaries out of the way, let's start pulling off our front stuff, get to our radiator fan, pull that off, and then we'll work our way back. 10 mil here, pops off. These are all little Phillips clips. Having a pair of pliers like this really helps, or a flathead screwdriver just to pop those clips up. Now our fan shroud is two 8 millimeter bolts. Pull off our upper radiator hose. If it's stuck on, you can use an angled pick like this to get it off. Just move it around just to break that seal on it. Sometimes it likes to stick. Now there is a little clip holding this harness on over here. Pop that off. So let's pull off our fan, 36 millimeter. Now I'll put a link to this kit in the description, but it's for an air hammer. So it goes on this, you air hammer it, da-da-da-da. But I find even if you don't have an air hammer, it gives you a nice hitting surface to get that off. A lot better than the tools you can rent from the auto parts store. Give that a whack. There we go. Then we'll just spin it off. Make sure it doesn't fall. Ew, a lot of dust. There we go. And then this whole thing comes out. Okay, let me back up, hold on. It'll come out, but let's take these off. I think it'll be easier that way. So there are 13. All right, now let's try it. Third time's the charm. And I like putting the bolts either with the part off to the side or back where they came from. That way we don't lose them. So let's start on the driver's side. This is the easiest side. Then it makes it feel like we're making progress. Power steering pump reservoir. Follow this black bracket all the way down. We'll get that loose. I don't think it has to come all the way off, just loose. And then this whole thing can just get pulled out of the way. So an 18 millimeter deep. I'm gonna put the socket on first and then put my ratchet on. This coolant hose is annoyingly in the way. And I dropped my socket. Let's remove it. We're just gonna remove this coolant hose here. There we go. Let's give it another spin. There, that's the ticket. See if that's enough. Okay, let's pull it off a little more. So it's still not all the way off. It's just unbolted a little more. Should just pop off, I thought. You're making me look bad. There we go. So, I don't know if you can see it, but it is notched right here. So that bolt doesn't have to come all the way out, but maybe just for getting this bracket off, pull it all the way out. But it's important to start it back in when we put everything back together. Otherwise, this bolt is a butt trying to get back on with this in place. So pull it all the way out to get this off, but when we put this back on, start at a few threads, and then you can slide this notch over the bolt. Cool. Let's just go ahead and separate this from the bracket. Easy enough. 3 8 millimeter bolts. These two come off. This bottom one doesn't have to, just loose. Let's just bungee this out of the way. Well, let's keep moving. We can unplug this, we can unbolt this, 15 millimeter. Unplug this. There's a little green tab that you just push back and it should pop off. Same with on the manifold. Just a green tab here. Plug our VVT solenoid, coils and injectors. Okay, comes off of this little stud here and this stud back here. This can get unplugged on top of this harness and snaked under. Just remember that it went under, but I guess going over wouldn't hurt, but it did go under. Move this out of the way like that. And right down here, the harness is clipped onto the valve cover. We'll just pull that off. There we go. Out of the way enough. Pull our coils off, 7mm. So now we want to vacuum out around the spark plug holes, top of the valve cover, get as much of that stuff as we can off, and then we'll take an air hose and get all the fine stuff out. So now we'll take our dipstick tube. We don't have to pull it out, just loose so it can get moved out of the way. So we'll move this hose back out of the way. 8mm, that just allows it to move. Now we can pull off all our valve cover bolts, 8mm. I'm gonna start in the back because those are the hardest. And there is one in the far, far back. You have to feel it. All right, now they're broke loose. I'm gonna go back through and get them with my electric ratchet. So now we're ready to pull our valve cover. On the side here, they give us just a little lip. I want to pry up on that. There's RTV on both sides, so it may stick a little. And we can get this up and out. Before we get this all the way out, let's take our variable valve timing solenoid off. Let me pull you around and I'll show you that. It's a little Torx. All right, it's a T27, and we'll pull this off on the other side first before loosening the valve cover. So you actually pop this little cover off here and then get an extension down in there and pull it out that way. We can do it this way, it really doesn't matter. Okay, now let that bolt out. Pop the whole thing off. There we go. Little oil drippage. Now we will be replacing these with new updated Ford parts. Here we go. Let me unplug this. We'll give our harness a little more room. Unplug this up here. There's a red tab. Pull the tab out and then just pinch. There we go. That gives us a little more room. So sweet, this side's done. Pull off our old gasket. Okay, so let's start working on the passenger side. The right-hand side will be a little more involved, take a little longer, but we'll get it done. I'm gonna start by removing the battery. 8mm on these posts. This one's a little fuzzy. We'll take care of that. 8mm for the tie down. Then we'll pull our battery box off. 13mm bolts. And this wiring harness here connects to it. We'll just pop those off. Having a pair of pliers like this works really good. And there's one vacuum connector in the back. I want to make sure you don't forget that. Vacuum hose. And again, if you need a little pick to get in that hose, sometimes they like to stick. So next we'll remove our engine computer, pull these tabs back, that unlocks them. Do that to all of them. And then we got 10mm bolts holding it in. And then our computer bracket, 10mm bolts for that as well. Oh man, I didn't have my microphone hooked up, so that sound is probably horrible. Next, we want to work on getting our AC stuff out of the way. Really, it's the receiver dryer that we want to remove. So you followed this top hose all the way back. There's a black clip that comes off. It just has these little push pins here, slides right out. Let me show you inside. We'll need a special tool. Looks like this. We can rent them from the auto parts store. If you don't have your own set, I forget which side we need. It may be a 5/8, but we'll see when we get in there. So let me show you real quick what we're doing. So right on that black ring, we're gonna put our tool on this side. Let's move this white ring out of the way. There we go. All right, got our AC line off. Now, if you ever have used one of those tools to take off a fuel line, it's very similar. Now we'll remove this bolt here, 13mm. Okay, we have an electrical connector here we want to pull off, and then it looks like at the 7/16. It should come out. Just wiggle and finesse. It's the word of the day. Got it. Okay, so that clears up all of this for us. Now let's start working over here. We can pull this off here. We're gonna pull this off here, 10mm. This electrical connector, 15 on this bolt. Plug this. So we're pretty much just unplugging stuff, freeing stuff. Not a whole lot of art to it. We'll move this hose out of the way. Okay. Same thing here is just that little green tab that comes up and out. We'll undo it from up here too. All our ignition coils. We got this connector here. There's a red tab we want to pull up. And then same thing, it harnesses connected to the top of the valve cover. We'll pull that off. And I'm gonna undo this vacuum line. There we go. Just so that's out of the way. Boom, pretty much up and out. Let's pull our ignition coils off. So now we'll do the same thing. We'll vacuum it out really well. So we want to free up this harness a little more. So if you follow it down, it goes to the top of our AC compressor and then down and around to our crank position sensor right there. You can get both of these from up top. The crank position sensor is easy to get to once we remove this bottom bolt. 15 millimeter, this little bracket comes out of the way, gives us access to pull that off. And then this harness can be pulled a little harder, giving us more slack. All right, there was one zip tie right here that we cut, so we'll put a new zip tie on when we install everything. And then there was just one more little clip holding it on to the cover here. So we got that off, and now we're excellent, super free. So let's go ahead, work on our bolts all the way around. So again, this is why we removed the fender well. We got perfect access to all our bolts on this side. Plus, we have to remove the dipstick tube for our transmission. There's a bolt right here, 18 millimeter bolt. Easy access from right through here. All right, here we go with our second valve cover. Same thing, we just want to pop it up, break that seal. There we go. Just kind of get everything out of the way. There we go. Oh yeah, we forgot our VVT solenoid. Man, I knew I was gonna do that. You just get so excited, you want to get the valve cover off. Okay, so I think this might be a little more challenging. So there's a 13 millimeter bolt holding this bracket on, and that just gets this AC line just a little more out of the way. I think that's really what is holding us up the most. There we go. There. So now let's get access to our solenoid, just like on the other side. That should pop out pretty easy. Just like that. There we go. Sweet, man. That was the hardest side. Now we can start working on our front cover. So now our valve covers, where the timing cover and the head meet, we want to get rid of that silicone, any leftover RTV in that crease. We're going to be applying new RTV, so we want to make sure that that's nice and oil free as well. With some brake clean, we'll put on our new gasket. And right here where these little square notches are, we want to make sure that that's oil free as well, because that's going to be what's touching the top side of our RTV. Now our new VVT solenoids did not come with a new cap. Because these were not leaking, we'll just go ahead and leave these caps the way they are. So before this sits all the way down, we'll make sure that we put our VVT solenoid, just like how we took it out, lift this up, put the new one in, tighten it up, and then this could set down on it. Just a dab of RTV. Really doesn't take a lot because it'll squish out, just covering that seam there. Same with this underside, we can get it from the wheel well. Makes it easy. All right, now be careful snagging your gasket on anything on its way in. We'll just be nice and careful, make sure we don't snag on our cam caps. Move this all out of the way. Nice. Okay, everything clear in the front. Now I'm just gonna set it down. I'm gonna get a flashlight and just make sure our gasket is still intact and in the groove in the back. I'll go through the wheel well. All right, looks good. And all the way back there, looks good, sweet. Now let's get some finger tightened. Look at that, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay, so now we wanna put our VVT solenoid in. All right, sits right in, boom. Get that tightened down. Don't drop any of your tools down there. That would make me cry. Probably even put a rag right there if you're worried about dropping anything. Okay, I'll snug these up, snug it up. It's not very tight. Okay, let's set this back down. Should go in the hole like that. Boom, just like that. There we go, get a couple of them going. So we'll snug a few of these down, wait for that RTV to tack up, and then we'll torque them. 89 inch-pounds, starting from the middle, working your way out. Let's hop over to this side real quick. Should be a lot easier. It's a little RTV here. bungee up these wires. It'll probably be easier. We'll have to see how this goes because we were kind of fighting this hose here a little and the dipstick tube a little. But let's see. All right, so I think I'm just hanging up in the back just a little. So it's just that last cam cap I need to clear. Oh, there we go. Okay, give it a good visual again. Make sure that gasket is still on. I think we're good. VVT solenoid. All right, good and snug. Now I hit this spot with the RTV, so I'm just gonna give it just a smidge extra. Okay, set it down. All right, we'll snug all these down and then torque them, 89 inch-pounds. Okay, so my SD card is almost full. So buttoning everything back up will just be quick. I'll point some stuff out, but really it's just putting stuff back on, mostly just electrical stuff at this point. Got the ignition coils back in. Don't forget our dipstick tube bolt, then our bracket for our power steering pump fluid. There's that bolt down there we want to tighten up. On this side, we got our AC stuff to put back on, our engine computer, battery. Don't forget our transmission dipstick tube bolt down there. A couple of brackets up front. The radio frequency interference thingy, we'll put those back on. And I think that's the majority of it. If there's anything that sticks out to me as I'm putting the rest of it back together, I'll let you know. Otherwise, we'll see you at the startup. All right, just a few things on this side. So this harness goes on this side of the filler, not on this side. When you put it on, it may want to be on this side. That's okay, you can take the filler cap off and then it'll just barely squeeze over this neck to get it on, but it goes on this side. The other thing is the AC. Put this on first before putting that back one on, because you'll need this to move around, that dryer to move around to get this back on. So this first before the back will help. I did the back first and regretted it. Other than that, this electrical for the computer goes under this AC line, not over. If you forget that, that's okay. It'll slide in between. I think that's about it as far as putting it back together, some of the technical nuances. So belt's back on. I'm gonna put our fan shroud on, that thingy, the hose back on, and then fill it up. We got our oil filter back on as well. It's easy to do it right now. I think that's it.